Yeah, well, I'm not exactly pissed about it. It's taken me a long while just to get this thing sorted out. It's 4:55 p.m. West Coast time, still November the 22nd, 2024. I'm very disturbed and upset. Weaver Genesee, Roseman, California. Oklahoma State Board has has discussed that and voted it in. Actually, it was Texas that voted in an optional curriculum that incorporates the Bible lessons for K through 5. But I also heard that Oklahoma was doing the same thing. In Texas, according to CNN, public schools in Texas now have the option to use a new state written curriculum infused with Bible stories after the state's school board voted in favor of the material on Friday. Slim majority in the board's 15 members, 8 to 7, voted to keep the Bluebonnet learning material on a list of K through 5 reading and English language arts materials for potential use in the 25 through 26 school year. Material was developed by the Texas Education Agency, state body overseeing the public school education, headed by a commissioner, by Texas Commission. Kind of pissed me off about it that the red states are that closed-minded and screw the Constitution. Critics of the curriculum argue that it heavily favors Christianity over other faiths. Some have suggested the teachings violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, which states Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. But Texas, in its infinite wisdom, if you can call it that, is basically telling people to go screw themselves in the Constitution of the United States. Put you on pause for a minute there. At this point, if this trend continues, ACLU is going to have a field day, and so are some other agencies who are going to be suing the crap out of the states and the school boards because of violations of the First Amendment rights. But apparently, the voters who put in the boards of education who demanded that Christian sharia law is more of a priority than the U.S. Constitution. They keep forgetting, those who keep following the Bible, that there is an expression in there regarding who is for what. But they keep losing track of that one all the time. Just to remind you, I'm going to get that information. In one of the books of the New Testament, there is a section in there. And this I'm pulling up on the BibleGateway.com, doing the search on this one. Now it's in Matthew 22. Jesus is still talking to people concerning about what's important. But consider that back then, the Roman Empire, you had the imperial tax collectors out there who were employed by Caesar to collect money to be funneled and sent back to Rome for constant upkeep or living on the taxes of people left and right. Now, some people probably didn't think that being a tax collector was hard enough because they have to follow that. The background you're hearing right now is basically is Trump and things going on. This may relate to him. But I'm coming up on what Jesus was dealing with the Pharisees at this point. Because in the section, in the Matthew 22, and here we go with the 15 through 22. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words, him being Jesus. They sent their disciples to him. Oh, by the way, this is going to be a new international version of it. They sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. Teacher, they said, we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? And Jesus sly on this one. He was very sly. Because in it he said, Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, you hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax. They brought him a denarius. And he, being Jesus, asked them, whose image is this, and whose inscription? Caesar's, they replied. And then he said unto him, so give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. Now for me, we put our presidential faces on the money, on the physical hard currency. Now I would think sometimes maybe the tax collectors would have maybe an issue here. But in this instance, and what they were talking about in the Bible is not exactly, but it still gets to be reinterpreted that way, that anything regarding the physical matter would be Caesar's. Anything of physical matter, including the coin, and what it represents, and what it's viewing as. A dollar bill is still a dollar bill, and it's not God's, but the federal treasury. And it says, in God we trust. We put a religious icon in there. We put a religious thing in there. Is it God's or is it the federal treasury? But we've already put a lot of things in the bill, don't we? But would a tax collector have an issue over this one? Would they? In the eyes of Jesus, if I'm understanding the parables correctly on this one, and I'm only a guy looking at the material. I'm looking at Matthew 9, verses 9 through 12. And it is called the calling of Matthew. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, he told him. And Matthew got up and followed him. When Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with the tax collectors and sinners? Upon hearing this, Jesus answered, it is not the healthy who needs a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Basically, he's saying that anybody, even Caesar's people, even if they are on the opposite ends, if they desire what's being offered, then that's cool with that. And he's got no beef with it. He looks at people as people. But unfortunately, we are segregatists. We are segregationists. We segregate. We're divisionalists. We divide. We must see the us versus them because we cannot see anything else beyond that. And we're treating people like that, like crazy. Even me. Which means I've got a problem concerning about people teaching religion in schools. And when we actually have the Constitution telling us in the First Amendment that the government shall not recognize any form of government. Uh, the government shall not recognize any form of religion, but allows the freedom of it. Meaning, you can have a synagogue and a, and a church right next to each other, or let alone an imam, a mosque, actually. All three in the same area. Not one of them is recognized as official from the government, and yet they exist. Why is it that we're putting in a recognition in public education, regardless if it's the states or the federal government? Why are we trying to recognize something that the U.S. Constitution, which is Caesar, which is an empire, well, we absolutely have an amendment saying you can't? It's one thing Christ allowing people to come in and saying, I accept you all. That's fine. Is Christ of the government? Is he employed by the U.S. government? Is he a volunteer for the U.S. government? Does he represent Caesar? No. An individual of a religious viewpoint, of a faith-based viewpoint. He is not recognized as official. But we officially are doing this because we got Bibles being shoved in kids' faces. Even though if we would have kids worship in a mosque or in a synagogue, and they would be forced upon it. But if the kids would say, I'm not doing this inside the class, they are segregating and dividing themselves away. They're open season for attack. Not just by adults, but by their own peers, because they are not considered Christian or Christian nationalists. So in the red states, we got Texas doing this thing. Well, Oklahoma is going to be done next, if they're not going to be sued left and right to prevent it. I was trying to make the argument here that since when is religion going to be the law of the land? There is a country back in 1979, and I'll bring him up from time to time, did an overthrow of an elected government system. A complete overthrow. Threatening the lives of the elected officials, where they had to flee the country and hide. If they actually returned, they would die. Check it out in 1979. The place is called Iran or Iran. And since that time, they haven't changed. It's still an autocratic oligarchy. No. It's still a religious ruled country. It's sharia law. Even Afghanistan is turned out to be that way, where religion fundamentalists rule it. And it must be held within the highest, strictest manner. If not, well, nice knowing your life. I think we're heading into that particular point. And as I said before, I blame the voters because this is what they wanted. There's not enough outrage. There's not enough crying out. Because the voters are silent and they want it. They want Iran in the United States. It's got to get to the point where we're coming up to Brave New World style. And that book, Brave New World, 1984, even worse. Even worse. Those books are not taught in the United States. Why? They're banned. Fahrenheit 451 is banned. Why? They require thinking, critical thinking skills, understanding what the authors were trying to tell you. But I guess that doesn't matter anyway, because people are going to be stupid, aren't they? We're going to be reading the Trump Bibles. For history. The Constitution would have been history. Declaration of Independence would be history. But a faith-based book treated as history? No. Goes against everything that the First Amendment goes. But apparently, we're losing that as well. And again, I blame the voters. Because they allowed it to happen. They're not protesting. And they call everybody else sheeple. Only because they're looking in the mirror and looking at themselves. And they are the sheeple. But this is what you want. This is what you're going to get. We have become United States of Iran. Deal with that one.